I'm Manny Botticelli, and this is the Storyteller Forecast for Pisces for June 2015. Go to my website, aspiritualspark.com, or click on the link below this video to see more about my personal live coaching. Also, you can see more about my new virtual coaching program, which is a 28-day, of course, a full moon cycle. It takes 28 days to make a new habit and break old ones. It's a virtual coaching program that's available on a sliding scale. It's called Shine. It's intended to help you bring your shine into the world. And while you're there, sign up for my free email newsletter and become part of my community. So what is going on in June? There is so much sweetness in this month, and it's very surprising because, first of all, there's just so much of it. Second of all, it's like sun rays bursting through the clouds of the retrograde. Not to say that retrogrades are bad. There's just an internal kind of cozy in the house, it's raining outside type of a feeling when we have personal planets that are retrograde. So let's start out with the beginning of the month where we have our first aspect that could be considered icky. It's the most icky of the month, and it's following this story of challenging Neptune transits that we had started in May. So, a lot of May, especially the end of May, is entrenched in this this challenge with Neptune, and Neptune is your ruling planet. So this is really especially going to affect you. Anything that goes on with your ruling planet has more potential effects for people who have that sign prominent in their charts. So however it's coming through, your moon sign, your sun sign, your rising sign, you may have other planets in Pisces that you don't know about if you don't know your chart. So we have a full moon in Sagittarius, June 2nd, and Neptune is squaring the full moon, okay? So the full moon is already, it's emotional, it's bringing something to fullness, something to completion. Sometimes it's associated with drama. There's, sometimes it's associated with something exciting, or maybe it's bittersweet. The full moons carry just this strong emotional overtone, and it's not always a bad, challenging thing, but we tend to have a lot of things that we don't deal with come to fullness. It's like we're extra sensitive. Everything is just built up in our field, and then at the full moon, it just gets discharged. So that's this cycle, that's this rhythm that we go through every 28.5 days. And this full moon is going to be affected by this Neptune square. Okay, so for Pisces, the full moon is happening in the sign that rules your 10th house. But for most of you, it's going to actually happen in the 9th house. So let's talk about the implications of full moon in both of those places. And keep in mind that we do have this additional aspect of Mercury is in retrograde during this time still. The Neptune is going to square the full moon. So some kind of fullness or completion or fruition may come in the area of 10th house, which is work, career, and life purpose. Also rules authority figures of any kind, government, parents, whoever is kind of in that place above you where you're having to listen to them in some way. It's that house, okay? So there's a very strong chance that this can manifest as some dealings going on behind your back that you don't know about and not necessarily working in your favor. So just, I'm not an advocate of being suspicious and focusing on negative things. It's just not my nature. But there's time to carry prudence. And at this full moon, when you're not getting told the whole story, I want you to have your intuitive feelers out. That is the magic of developing your intuition. It's that even when people are not being forthcoming, even when someone is just straight out lying to you, if your intuition is sharp, there's a pretty good chance you're going to know that that's happening anyway. And this time of the month, we want you to be really aware of this. And like I said, this all throughout the end of May into the beginning of June has this kind of Neptunian cloud over it. And I say cloud because when Neptune is in a challenging aspect, it brings more of a chance for the negative attributes of that planet to come through. If we were talking about Neptune in a positive aspect, then all the wonderful things about Neptune would have more of a likelihood of showing through. And ultimately, I hope and I intend and I hold the vision for, and I'd love to facilitate helping that even the challenging aspects will ultimately bring some good. And the more you can look for that and the more you can plan for that, the more it will happen. So many spiritual breakthroughs can come from any challenging aspect with Neptune, because although it is foggy and cloudy and chaotic and confusing, it causes people to ask different questions. And when you ask different questions, you'll get different answers. So that's all going on with this full moon. So speaking of deep questions, the ninth house is going to be affected with this full moon for some or most of you in some way. So fullness in the ninth house can be the coming to completion, some drama, some confusion, something around courses at school, school in general, teaching, learning, something that you teach, having a breakdown with all of a sudden like a dark night of the soul where you're not resonating with what you're teaching and you break down and you have to stop teaching. You know, these are the kind of energies that come together that make you question things. And when you question things, then sometimes you have to stop doing them for a while until you can regain what is in resonance with you. So anything involving religion, anything involving spiritual things, international matters, publishing, writing, has a very strong chance for having manifestations with this full moon. And again, the confusion. So if you can avoid committing to something in these first couple of days, especially while Mercury is still retrograde, but particularly this time of the month, there's going to be better times towards the end of the middle to end of the month. If you have to commit to something, it's going to be better. This isn't a time to do it. You don't have all the information yet. Okay, so June 5th, we start our series of sweet aspects. Now, Mercury is still retrograde, and actually the whole theme of June has this retrograde energy because Mercury went retrograde on May 18th. It's retrograde until June 11th, and then the shadow period goes till June 27th. So essentially the whole month is covered in some semblance of Mercury retrograde, but the shadow of Mercury retrograde that happens after it goes direct is less potent than the shadow period before. And that's with the exception of maybe the 2 or 3 days after it goes direct. Things get a little more chaotic when it's starting to reverse the energies and go direct again. But after around the 14th, every day you'll just feel more and more clarity and be able to see the details that are relevant to making decisions. And so if you've been listening to my horoscopes, you know that May, June, July, August, September, October all has some influence of a personal planet being retrograde. So Mercury, in this case, it's Mercury and then Venus and then Mercury that we're working with. And these times in general are not great for blazing forward and bringing your life's work out as a culmination of, here is my life's work. You know, it's a very backward moving energy. But the last couple of weeks of the month, once Mercury is kind of straightened out some, and before Venus retrograde shadow period starts on June 22nd, but even through that last week of June, you've got all these sweet spots that can, so basically if you have to launch something or you have to do something or have to decide something and you can't wait until November, one of your best pockets is going to be these aspects in June, okay? And June 5th starts these sweet aspects. So Mars in Gemini is sextile Jupiter in Leo. Mars rules how you use your energy. Jupiter rules expansion, benevolence, optimism. And so when they're in a sweet aspect, people will be working to help you. Now, this is very different than what I just talked about with people kind of working behind the scenes. Here, someone can just totally show up and do something for you, and you're like, wow, that's really cool. Now, June 5th and June 6th, we have a trine with Venus and Saturn. And Saturn, we know, can be kind of a beast with its manifestation. Of course, it does have a positive side as well. And when we have a sweet aspect like this, its positive side can come out more. And this makes me think of Ebenezer Scrooge. And when he goes through and remembers, well, basically with the help of the spirits from the past, present, and future, kind of like gets a new perspective on life. And then now he has all this money, and then he has love in his heart, and then he's sharing. And it's prosperous and wonderful for everybody. So when Ebenezer is happy, everybody's happy. And Ebenezer is kind of like Saturn, okay? It's very miserly. He's very hard work oriented. He's very emotionally withholding. And when you have Venus come and flirt with him in this really sweet aspect, it lights everything up. So Venus rules love and beauty and money, aesthetics. So this is, again, a sweet spot here at the beginning, June 5th and 6th. Whenever I give you exact dates, it doesn't mean that the manifestations will definitely happen on those dates, because the days around them can also be lit up with that energy. We don't know exactly how it's going to manifest. So just be aware that there's the date here, and then there's the orb of energy going backwards and forwards with the potential manifestations. And that's true always and forever. Okay, so June 8th, we have now the sun in Gemini doing the same sextile that Mars just did. And we're going to have this little kind of Mars-Sun doing things, and then like each other both doing them because they're so close. And then the sun and Mars make a conjunction themselves. So everything is just magnified by the sun, which it magnifies things and brings warmth. And Mars, which rules this energy, you know, bringing energy forth in whatever form. So the sun in Gemini makes this sextile to Jupiter and Leo. And again, someone working on your behalf, some luck, benevolence, vibrant creative expression, you know, good news. There's so many different ways that this can manifest. June 9th, we have Mars in Gemini now sextiling Uranus in Aries. Okay, so you're seeing the trend here. We've got the sun and Mars. They're both going to sextile Jupiter. They're both going to sextile Uranus in Aries. And then, of course, that means that Jupiter and Uranus are going to sextile each other. Yay! This is just like really good news, especially after the kind of internal month of May that we've had, where there might be delays and confusion and challenges, and it's just kind of very in. And this is just like, you know, the angels are singing and the fire is blazing and it's warm and vibrant. So June 9th, we have Mars and the sun trining Uranus. And Uranus is the planet of surprises. We've had aspects over the last several months that we've been highlighting that have been, especially that lunar eclipse that was opposing Uranus, that brought a series of things out of the blue that totally sucked. Sorry about that word, but it did. You know, it's surprises in a bad aspect. Uranus, the planet of surprises in a bad aspect, usually brings surprises that aren't very good. And many people have gone through that. But this is a positive aspect. So the chance for happy surprises is dramatically increased. And with every planet that we have making this sextile, which is Mars and the sun and Jupiter, there's just more chances for like, what? Really? But in a good way. Things coming out of the blue. Uranus rules these things coming out of the blue. And there's so many sweet aspects with this planet this month that it's like, just be prepared for happy surprises. Now, we can't see what's going on in your natal chart. That's one of the limitations of doing general horoscopes, is that you might have really challenging aspects in your personal chart that we're talking about, yay, happy, and then you have bad things happen and you're like, well, that wasn't right. This is happening all at the same time. And things that are in your personal life, your personal chart, your psyche, are going to supersede general events because they're more personal to you. But with that being said, excuse me, the general energy is just really bright with lots of potential happy surprises. So on June 14th, we have Saturn starting its retrograde for several months, and it's going to leave Sag, where it has recently moved as of the end of last year, 2014, and it's going to return to Scorpio for a couple of months and for a couple of degrees, you know, several degrees. And Scorpio, among other things, rules deep relationships. And so Saturn in Scorpio has ruled karma involving relationships. So this is very much like a Santa aspect, where Santa brings good presents and cookies and candies to the people, the kids who have been good, right? And brings coal to the kids that have acted awful and tortured their parents. So that's what Saturn is like when it moves into, you know, this karmic energy of relationships, things that you've done well. We've really been heart-centered. You're going to have blessings and things come to fruition at this time that will feel really good. And if there's something you haven't quite righted, it's going to come up. So that's coming into the next several months, but this energy is starting in the middle of June. Okay, then we have the new moon in Gemini on June 16th. And this is going to happen for most of you in the 4th house. The new moons bring new energy. And this is one of the best times of the year for you to have something new with home and family. So many of you might be moving into a new house, might resolve a housing situation, might resolve something with family, might have a new family member brought in. And you know, that will usually be positive. And this is also a time to do your new moon wishes and wish for anything in the energy around Gemini. Also, because the new moon is in Gemini, new things involving Gemini can be coming in for you. So new car, new way of transportation, new sense of mobility. Mercury retrograde and Venus retrograde are not the best times to buy cars. If you have to buy a car anytime during May through the end of October, the last 2 weeks in June are going to be the best, because you're really clearing out of the Mercury retrograde and you're not quite excuse me, into the Venus retrograde too much yet. So again, this is a little window. If you have to buy a computer, you have to buy a device, you have to buy a car, there's some sweet spots in here. So I encourage you to do it, because you're not going to have really great transits to do this for a while. So if you can help it, then make it happen. So then we have, of course, the longest day of the year, June 21st, the summer solstice. The sun moves into Cancer, and that is a power day. Whenever we have a day where there's a notable moment in our rhythm of life, that's a power day. This is a day of most light. This is a day to shed light on the deepest recesses of yourself and make good headway doing that. So we've got right after that, June 22nd, and the fact that this what I'm about to talk about is happening near this power day expands its potentials. So as promised, Jupiter in Leo is going to trine Uranus in Aries. Yay! More happy surprises, more benevolence, more good things, more expansion, more people coming and helping you out of the blue, more things coming in that maybe you had been wishing for. Maybe you had felt like God forgot you, which totally never happens, but we feel that way sometimes. And these planets are the kind of things that, like, just when you think like nobody is listening to me, these things come. And this aspect is another big one, where something that you've been intending for a long time, something you've been wishing, something you have been relentlessly holding on to in a good way for yourself, can come in and it will carry the energy of surprise. So even if you've intuited it, even if you have been expecting it, even if you knew it was coming, anything that involves Uranus will always kind of feel sudden. Will always feel like, whoa, how did that happen? That was really fast. How did that happen? Even though maybe it took 10 years, but you know, it's like, it's just the nature of the planet. You know, it's like a lightning strike. It's like, whoa, you know, thunder, cloud, and then lightning, and it's like, wow, it's really fast. That's what that energy is like. So, but in this case, we have all of this chance for new levels of optimism and new hope and a sense of hope. Anything involving Jupiter, especially in a positive aspect, can bring this expanded sense of hope. And that's really what most people want, you know, is just knowing that something good can happen, even if some bad things had happened, you know. Something that I want to mention that I always talk about, and I see people post about this, and I always try to respond. I don't always see all the posts, but when you see things that are supposed to be going on in the stars that are good as you're listening to horoscopes, and they're not happening for you, it's not because astrology is wrong and inaccurate. It's because the transits bow down to your inner program. That's a big deal. So that's why it's impossible for me to even comprehend doing astrology or focusing on astrology without also doing inner work. Because basically you'd just be saying, this is what's going to happen. You're stuck with it. Good luck with that. Have a nice life. Like, I don't even know what else you could say to somebody besides, that's going to suck. That's going to be good. Thank you very much. Have a good day. You know, it's like, what is the purpose of hearing about something challenging if you don't have the tools or the willingness or the focus or the perspective to use those challenges to make your life better? What's the point, right? But the good news is with that, you always can use them to make your life better. And if you're not doing inner work and focusing on integrating your mental challenges, your physical challenges, your spiritual challenges, your emotional challenges, if you're not working on them, then every time a transit happens that is iffy at all, you're going to get slammed by it because it's trying to show you have a weak link. So there's many different ways to do inner work. There's many different ways to do spiritual, mental, emotional, physical work, but constantly focusing on this is how you can maximize the expression of the stars. Because if you have a program that's saying, I'm not good enough, I can't make money doing something that I don't love, or I can't make money doing something that I love. You know, if you're having this program, then if Jupiter comes and wants to give you a big surprise and help you out, you've got this block up. It's like you have an umbrella when it's raining down sunshine on you, you know? So really need to think about that, because it's definitely not that astrology doesn't work, because that's totally not true. People, since the beginning of all recorded history, all civilizations have used astrology. There's a reason for that. It works. It's true. It's real, you know? And if it's not working for you, rather than blaming outside, you have to look inside. But when you do that, that's the seed of empowerment. So the last beautiful aspect I want to talk about, June 28th, June 29th, is Venus in Leo, sextile Uranus in Aries. So now we have yet another sextile with the planet Uranus, another favorable aspect, which is more surprises. Now, this can bring, it could be kind of a sexy thing, because it involves love, and it involves surprises, and it involves fire signs. So if you have to plan some time with you and your sweetheart, this would be a good time to do that. But again, you might not be able to plan it because it's Uranus. So it's a surprise. It's something that comes out of the blue. And it might be that some interesting experience comes to you during that time. And if you're looking for that, you might want to make yourself available for it, because that gives the transit more room to work. So I can't see what's going on in your individual chart. I would like very much to help you navigate through the astrological waters in the world, in your life. I would love to help give you resources that you can go inward and change the imprint through which spirit is reflecting through you in the form of your life. If you imagine, I always imagine spirit coming through the crown chakra and then reflecting out like a projector. So like, let's say, I like butterflies, so we'll just use an example of a butterfly. Let's say you had a source of light, which is going to be, light is coming in you and it's coming out from inside of you. And let's say you had a butterfly shaped little metal thing or whatever, right? And the light reflects out through the butterfly, and then it casts the impression of a butterfly out in front of you. That is what spirit is doing. Spirit is coming through you. It's going through your wiring, which is in your brain, which is in your being, which is in your body, which is in your skeletal structure. And it's casting out before you what is inside. So if it's a butterfly, that's great. If you see butterflies only all the time and that's your life, that's great. Okay, you've got everything inside worked out. But if what's casting out before you is something that you don't like, or something you want to be better or different, then you have to go in and shift what the light is coming through to cast out to become your life. I'd like to help you do that. That's what I do. And part of how I do that is with my 28-day virtual coaching program, Shine. It's affordable for everyone. It's on a sliding scale. The lower end of the scale is where pretty much anyone can do it, because I wanted to make it accessible. And I've made this program because I can't work with each person individually. I just can't. So this is something that you can use that brings the teachings that are coming through me into your home and your being and your life. So check it out on my website, aspiritualspark.com. And while you're there, sign up for my free email newsletter, and have a wonderful June. Bye.